Greetings, family. Greetings and welcome to FPC TV. I'm Brother Kamos Muhammad, FPC TV. If you don't know, you want to know, and you want to spread the word that we are the unalike, the non-mainstream media that's coming to you with all the information that you and everyone in the community needs to know. You're going to hear straight facts, straight truth. You're going to learn things that you never thought about before, things that are going on in our world that are affecting us every single day. We're going to be talking about it on FPC TV. Today, and FPC TV is sponsored by Freedom Paper Company. That's Freedom Paper Company, www.freedompapercompany.com. Make sure you go to www.freedompapercompany.com. High quality products, good for you. That means no toxins or low toxins, and good for the planet. For those who might be interested in either sponsoring a show or participating or being interviewed or a part of one of our programs, please reach out to us at sales@freedompapercompany.com. All right, so we are very happy today. This is the debut of our Leaders You Need to Know. Leaders You Need to Know series. And we're so proud and happy to have with us our sister Deshauna Spencer, KweliTV. Let's give it up, family. If you should be in your house applauding right now. And if you didn't, you will by the end of this. So, Sister Deshauna, welcome. Peace and blessings to you.
Peace and blessings. Thanks for having me. So next time you have like a little, they can do radio, they have like a little applause in the background.
Yeah. Yes, family, we got to get all of those perks in here. This is a debut, so give us a little bit of room. We're working on it.
No, but you're great. I was just joking with you.
It's okay. Listen, we have to learn, as the I'm gonna say the Honorable Dr. John Henry Clark said, as African people, we have no friends in the world, so we need to learn to be friends of each other. So whatever it is and wherever we are what we have, and we have to build upon it and make it great. So, good sister, KweliTV. I met Sister Deshauna several years ago. She and I both were invited to speak on a panel about economics and how business economics and so forth were affecting both Black and brown people in Washington, D.C. At that time, I met my sister and I tried to stay in tune, and we began to do some work together and so forth. So, Sister Deshauna, give us a little overview about yourself. And in this first part, I want to talk a little bit about maybe, the formal years that kind of led up to you being who you are today. Tell us a little bit about your background in that sense.
Yeah, so a bit about me. I live in the DC area, and then you're like in the Baltimore area. I'm in Alexandria, Virginia, but I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, where I was born and raised. My dad was a truck driver. My mother was a teacher's assistant, and then she went to college in her 30s and early 40s and ended up graduating from college in her 40s, became a school teacher. And so I always tell people I grew up in a working class family, 2-parent household. My parents were very religious, as well. They were Kojic, if people are familiar with that particular denomination, the Christian denomination. And so that actually kind of formed a lot of my opinions as a child. I would say my church was actually, for me as a woman, I felt like I wasn't sure if that was a lot that I could do. I felt like that was more for me, but I didn't really see a lot of role models as women, as entrepreneurs, and like being professional, to be quite honest. And but I knew that I wanted more out of my life, and so as a child, I was always searching to find that, and I found that through media, through books. I was an avid reader. Oh my God, I used to read so much. My parents, because they didn't have a lot of money, they would take us to the library. We would drive all the way to the main library in the good neighborhood in Memphis, and we would drive by the really big houses on the way to the library, and I would order, I would check out 10, 12 books at a time and would read them, in a week. That's how much of an avid reader I was, and I just love storytelling. And as a child, I thought I would be either a novelist. As I got a little bit older, I started really starting to consider maybe journalism to be a career for myself, mainly because when I was 10 years old, I learned about Emmett Till through Jet Magazine. And back in the day, everyone had Jet. You know, every household had Jet and Ebony. It was like a staple in your
Right.
household. And on my way to church, I
I
remember
was,
I
I
would.
was, I was looking for the ebony of the person of the week. I forget what they called it back then.
Yeah, the beauty of the week for Jet Magazine, right in the back there, the one with
All
the
the brothers were looking at the beauty of the week in the
yeah,
Jet magazine.
yeah. With the big booty and the smile. Yeah. I didn't look at that because I wasn't quite didn't really care too much for that part. But as a man, I'm pretty sure because my brother would go directly to the back of the issue and look for her. But for me, it was really more about learning about Black culture, and I learned that through Ebony and Jet. And I remember reading about Emmett Till in particular. I was 10 years old, and I was on my way to church, and I was reading about him. Then I flipped the page and I saw his picture in the casket, and I remember like dropping the magazine on the floor of my parents' car and picking it back up, and just how that image really affected me, and not knowing anything about him. I read, oh my God, he was a few years older than me, and this happened to him, a long time ago. And so it really started to form my mind about how storytelling can change mindsets and how it can educate and do so many different things. And as I got older, I started focusing more on being a journalist. And I did go to college. I went to an HBCU, Jackson State University, and I studied communications and journalism. While I was there, I worked for my junior senior year. I wrote obituaries, not the most glamorous job in the world, but most students are working for Discovery Zone or some other low-wage job, and I was working at a newspaper, the largest paper in the state. So I was really proud of that. And when I graduated, I moved on to the Oakland Tribune in Oakland, California, where I was a cop reporter. Initially, I envisioned being a journalist, sort of, or working for a daily news. That changed working for daily news because it was very depressing. My job as a cover reporter, especially in Oakland, it was at the time it was just all this crime, early 2000s, and it was just a lot of murders happening. And my job mostly would go be out interviewing moms whose children were shot. It was like literally that was my job. They would get shot, and then like an hour later, I would knock on the door, give them a call, like, "Hi, I'm Deshauna. I'm so sorry for your loss, but can you tell me about your son?" Like right when they're mourning, it was horrific. I hated it. I would go home crying, and to my little apartment, and I just like I don't want to do this. And so that was when I was trying to figure out, what do I want to do? I want to work in media, but I don't want to do if it bleeds, it leads. I don't want to be the journalist who becomes desensitized to what's happening in our community, because that happens too, where you're so used to all the things happening that you lose your empathy. I didn't want to lose my empathy because it was pretty high. And so I was like, well, what can I do? And I took a step back, and I ended up going to Buffalo, New York, where I became a AmeriCorps volunteer. It's like the Peace Corps before America. And I lived in this inner city community around all different types of people, elderly, young, drug dealers, everybody. Everybody knew me. Everyone knew I was from the South, and they were treating me very nicely. And that's where the light bulb kind of hit off about marrying activism or activism with media, with journalism. My initial goal was to start an online magazine. And so when my year ended in Buffalo, I moved to the DC area, and I worked for a trade association, and I wanted to work there because I wanted to be a manager. I was a manager of a department, and I was in charge of everything from the budget to the marketing. I never managed a budget before. I never managed a team before. I was only 24 at the time. I'm not gonna tell you how old I am now. Well, I managed all this stuff, and for me, it's a really great way for me to learn how to be in charge of something, to run something, because my whole goal was to start this online magazine. While working there in a few years, I actually did start a magazine called Empower. And while working there, I started this award show called the Empower Players Awards. We were honor people who were giving back in the community, mostly, Black people, whether they were teachers, or someone who did something heroic for someone, or a foster mom who had kids and was doing really great. And I really wanted to honor those people, kind of like the senior heroes, but for the Black community. And it was interesting because the last one that we did, it was when I was starting to think about KweliTV and trying to create KweliTV. And so the transition or the pivot, I would like to say, from online magazine to KweliTV came from me just flipping through a bunch of cable channels one day and not finding anything I wanted to see. I mean, and it was really just like that. And see myself, I didn't see my family represented. I kept seeing these very negative stereotypes about Black women, or not even just African Americans, but like Black people in general, even in other parts of the world, like Africa and Brazil. Is always this negative lens about Blackness. And I just wanted to see something else. And I wanted to see these independent Black films from Black filmmakers. And I just couldn't find it. And I always tell people that there comes a point in your life where you're working on something and you think that that's supposed to be your mission. And you think, okay, if I quit doing this one thing, am I a failure and I have to start over to something else? And it was hard for me to transition out of Empower because I really thought that would be my vision. I had a radio show too in DC on 89.3 FM, WPFW, called Empower Hour. Everything's all tied into Empower and this business that I built. And I said, well, let me take a chance on this thing called KweliTV. And that's where it kind of started from there, just really wanting to use media to change the narrative. But we went from using written word to visual media to do that. So I'm still doing the same thing, still in the same mission, but KweliTV is really focused on film and television versus just focusing on news.
Fantastic. And we're going to certainly get more into KweliTV, a little bit more about that. We want the listeners to understand the impact that you're making. In my opinion, humbly, I think you're making a phenomenal impact. We want to talk about that. And thank you for giving us that background. Entrepreneurism, business people, they don't, come out of thin air. We are people who have backgrounds in our environments, our experiences, as you just expressed, shape and mold us. And we need to share those experiences more and more so that more of us who are either entrepreneurs today or who are striving to become that, people who may be envisioning that, our youth, our babies who may have that thought in their mind, get to see more and more of us. And so that's, what we're trying to do in this particular series. Leaders You Need to Know is we want people to know that there are great people in and around us that may not be getting the fanfare, ironically, from the major media sources, right? But you represent an alternative. You represent another source of information and media, which we're going to talk about because I think that's very important. Now, in what you just said, though, if there were one or two, maybe three things even, in short, which one of these experiences really would you say were the foundational footsteps or founding blocks that have got you from there to where you are today? What one, two, or three things that even that you mentioned or didn't mention would you say really got you to where you are today?
I think that it's an interesting question because I think a lot of times people are like, how did you do it? Like, I don't understand. It's hard. Starting a business is really hard. I'm not sure what really curious to hear about your background in Freedom Paper. We're going to be doing an interview with you a little bit later on. But for a lot of entrepreneurs, people don't realize that you have no background in that type of business. You just have a passion for it, and you just start learning and figuring things out. And I would say that, one of the things that has sort of helped me in my journey is being really stubborn, number one. As a kid, I was grew up in a very religious household, and I can do normal things more a lot of kids can do. I couldn't wear pants, to be honest. My parents are really, really strict even about that. And so there are certain things I kind of did was probably not right, did defy my parents quite a bit on certain things. But I always tell people that it kind of made me like not take no for answer, where if there was something I was really passionate about, I'm going to pursue it. Case in point, I didn't realize, comparing it to now, I understand the issues that I knew Black people had issues, when it came to raising money. Like I knew there were some challenges, but I just had no idea how deep-seated and how widespread it is, and how it's nearly impossible for almost any Black person to get money. Like, from banks, from investors, like it's just.
It's almost like they send out a message and say, check if they're Black, and if they are, don't give them no money.
Exactly. It's. Yeah. You can have, I've had conversations with entrepreneurs where, like, this one woman, at the time, she had like this, she got in distribution to Target, and she was working with the bank, and she was like, Target already had the orders. Like typically any other store you hear, like if it's like a white person and they go to the bank and they say, I have an order for 100,000 units from Target, they're gonna write that check. Like those stories happen all the time. She came in, I have all these units that Target wants to purchase. Deny. It was like the most insane thing. And just so happened she went to this conference, was a really rich Black person to say, hey, here's some money, if we can make it happen. And she was able to get into Target, but like, why was she denied? And so it's just so deep seated, this issue when it comes to Black people and trying to get the money we need to grow and sustain our business. And so when I was working, especially early on, I was very discouraged about, not being able to get investors and not finding the money that we need. And I just decided to just take a step back. And that's where stubbornness comes in. Will I allow the powers that be, the man, some white bro in Silicon Valley, to put me out of business because he didn't write me a check? No. I would never allow, and it's hard, right? Some businesses, you need some starting capital. So by no means I'm not saying like don't go for it, and don't feel some type of way if you don't get it. But my thing is, how can you make it happen with the resources that you have? And I've been able to create a company with the resources that I have. There's absolutely no way we should have this much content. We were listed as one of the top movie streaming services for 2020 by PC Magazine. We were in 8th place behind HBO Max. Like HBO Max and Hulu and Amazon Prime and Netflix and all the big players are multi-billion-dollar brands. And here we are in 8th place. There's no way in the world that I still can't understand like how we're in the mix of that. If we're doing something right, but I think that, I've been able to really figure out a way to build a business as economically as possible. And I think that for a lot of Black business owners, that's what we have to do. So that's like I would say it's number one. I don't know. I would say number two is that I've really been able to find the community that wants the content and not listen to outside sources. When I started KweliTV, talking with some investors, potential investors, they would say, oh, this content's cute, documentary, that's cute and all, but Black folks want to see slapstick comedies. Black folks only want to see, fighting, and they maybe should partner with World Star Hip Hop. Someone actually said should partner with World Star Hip Hop. No, absolutely not. We're not partnering with them. What if I would listen to them back in the day? I've had so many people tell me that Black people aren't into the type of content that we have, but documentaries, that's our number one genre. And so we've been able to find our community in using social media and other avenues in which, we're able to connect with a group of Black people. They don't want to see a status quo content. They don't want to see a cookie cutter type of content. And I think it's really important to find your tribe of people who want what you have to sell, and that we've been able to do that successfully. I know exactly what my cousins are into, and what I see a film like, oh, they're not going to like this, I already know. So I've been able to figure out sort of the type of programming that our customers are really in tune to, and it's been able to help us grow. We would definitely want to grow more, and just trying to figure that part out, the next level of growth with the resources that we have. But those are two things I can think of off the top of my head.
Excellent. And you hit on some really, really important points there that our listeners need to know. Again, it's my belief that even when we talk about our demographic, people of African descent here in America as consumers, that we are really undereducated, in particular about really economics in general, but in how the system works. But in terms of the struggles that our people have always faced in terms of actually building a business, how significantly it's difficult. Because here's the point: it's difficult for anybody to be in business. If we looked at the statistics of white business failure, they're pretty high. Even Asian business failure, they fail too. But when we look at our rate of failure, it's higher, and there's some contributing factors to why that's so. And one of the biggest factors, I would argue, with anyone, is that we don't control the market, our own market, that is, because our people, by and large, are not the base level, the foundational consumers of our products and our services and whatever we have. We're not spending dollars with each other. And I here in Baltimore, there's a strong Korean community, for example. And I tell people all the time, if you go by their stores, you'll notice they have Korean writing on their stores. I don't speak Korean. I don't read it. I know a lot of Caucasians do not read or speak Korean. And so what they're saying is they're so confident in their own communities supporting them that it doesn't even matter. They're not even worrying about the fact that we can't read that writing, because they already are so confident that their own people will support. So I think a number of the things you said are very important. And in particular, the fact that we have to think out the box, and the struggles we have to face because of not being able to get what we might call contemporary financing and these sorts of things, and the struggles that are there. Our people really need to understand the significance of that, because in the big picture, businesses like yours, mine, and others, we are the ones who, everyone knows, this is a statistical fact. We're the ones who employ first the people in our own communities. So when we're not supported, and we look at unemployment rates and everything else, it's all revolving and dwindling spiral. Now, and I've been saying the name of the station wrong all this time. Say it for us again, please.
It's Kweli. I used to call it Kweli too, actually, because of Talib Kweli.
Yes,
but
yes.
We did a commercial 2 years ago, and we're like, KweliTV, all the people, the talent saying KweliTV. We posted on Instagram, and some people who speak fluent Swahili, like in Kenya, like, you're saying it wrong. You're hijacking our culture. I'm like, I'm black too. Like, I'm sorry.
How about that?
So
what does the name mean? What does it mean? What's the significance?
It means truth in Swahili. And so our whole mission is really about curating content that shows a true reflection of the global Black experience. We're not saying everything has to be perfect and, and like positive and everything. We just want to be authentic. And so, we don't want the caricature of Black people and the type of thing. We want to show real stories about what it means to be Black around the world.
Okay. Why should tell us a little, and I'll be honest, I peeked into it when we first met. And then all of a sudden I started really looking at it. And I was really overwhelmed at the content, some of the phenomenal work of the companies that are producing film, positive film. And my wife is from Senegal, so she looks at Senegal TV. And so now I'm looking at, Nigerian film, and I'm looking at Senegalese film, but you have film coming in from all over the world, right? And so you are a portal by which inspiring directors, producers, actors, you're offering an opportunity. Tell us a little bit more about that. Why should people tune in? Why should people subscribe, right? Let me say that. Listen, y'all need to subscribe, right? Most of us got Netflix. The hell with that. Hey, we got to subscribe to our own, right? So tell us why people should subscribe.
Yeah, thanks for that. I always tell people, like, you have Netflix. We're not telling you to unsubscribe. What people like, do I have to give up Netflix? We won't have those, Ted, the little talking bear movie. We don't have those films, but we have really authentic Black stories. And so I always tell people that, especially now when people are trying to get more culture in their life, for us, we're able to filter out a lot of the stereotypes about Blackness that I feel like even, like Netflix had a strong Black lead and they're trying to say, see, we care about Black people. But once, I feel like with the whole thing with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all the others who were murdered last year, there was this renaissance in Black businesses and Black media companies were saying, see, we care, Black Lives Matter on their Twitter handles. But as the next movement happens, will that change? Will they change that Twitter handle? I always tell people, like, our mission is the same and it's clear. Our goal is to always amplify Black stories, no matter if anyone is murdered or not by the cops. Like, that will always be our mission. We would never create a movement around the death of someone else. Like, this is, 100 years from now, this will be doing the exact same thing. And then number two is that, 60% of our revenue goes to our content creators, and we pay them every single quarter. And so when people subscribe their monthly or annual subscription, 60% of that goes directly back to our content creators and allow them to make more amazing content. 91% of our filmmakers are Black around the world. And so you're giving money to...
How many?
91% of our filmmakers
90?
are Black.
Did y'all hear that? Listen, I want that to sink in for a minute. Everybody just take a breath, think about that. Because what our sister just said is of the greatest importance. See, family, this is how we survive. If we don't understand, and we're going to bring some stories here talking about what's going on globally to African people all over the world, right? We have to understand that we're being squeezed now. And so when companies like KweliTV, I say that right?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm so used to saying KweliTV.
It's fine.
When we support each other in these businesses, we're supporting our existence today. So just give me that statistic, those two statistics. How much of the money goes to content providers?
60. So 6% of our revenue.
And then what was it, 91%?
91% of our filmmakers are Black around the world.
Listen, okay, continue.
So, in saying that, for us, it's really important by subscribing, you're actually putting money back into the filmmaker. And other platforms really can't say that. I was on a panel last night where a filmmaker, I was the only Black person on the panel, so this wasn't a Black filmmaker, but he was saying he had this film on Amazon Prime. And Amazon Prime, I think they give you 4 cents per hour, like 4 cents per hour. Like, oh my God, like that's nothing. And sometimes we've had to fight tooth and nail for some filmmakers to even consider us as an option. And I'm not telling people not to watch content on Amazon Prime. I don't have Amazon Prime. I don't have Amazon Prime. And I'm in Whole Foods. Like, I don't have Amazon Prime. I'm good. Leave me alone. But what I'm trying to say is that while everyone's so rushing, like, yeah, you're Amazon Prime, they're not really doing their part to promote and adequately amplify Black storytellers, or any of their storytellers for that matter. They're not doing a commercial. They're not going to promote a film. If someone randomly uploads their film on Amazon Prime, they're not going to promote that. They're going to promote the films in which they produce and put a lot of money into. And what makes us different is that, we're promoting every single filmmaker on our platform, no matter if it's a short or if it's a feature film. I think that's really important because we don't have hierarchy in who gets promoted and who doesn't. And so that's what really makes us different. I don't know. It's interesting talking with some people because you're like, well, KweliTV has this and Netflix has that, and y'all don't have this and Netflix. I really can't fix that. I always try to tell people we're a small company, and we're definitely trying to do the best we can to try to offer what we can, but we can't compete with Netflix. Like, Netflix is a multi-billion company. They're the largest company, and us trying to compete with them head on, we're going to be an out of business company. Honestly, if we do that, all we can do is stay in our lane with the resources that we have, and try to be as impactful as much as possible.
Right. And brothers and sisters, let us not forget historically that the reason why we had black millionaires doing, let's say, pre assimilation, pre assimilation, is because we were forced to spend our dollars with each other. Segregation made us spend our dollars with each other. And so if we want stronger businesses that can do all the things that we want them to do, we must be the supporters of it. But let's look at this. Aren't we tired of being always shown in the media as thugs and prostitutes? And I can put some other names in there. We won't do it. Family show. We won't do it today. But you know what I'm talking about. Aren't you tired? Aren't we tired of being portrayed in these negative lights? KweliTV offers something different. Now, how much is a subscription a month?
It's $5.99 a month.
How much?
$5.99.
That's a cup of coffee at Starbucks. For the whole month, you get good programming, wholesome programming that you and your children, whole family can watch for $5.99, and you give a discount for yearly subscriptions, right?
Yep, it's $50. They say like $21 if you do the annual subscription.
$50. Listen, there's no reason we all should not be subscribing. As our sister said, she's not telling you to get off of these other platforms, right? We understand. Right. You got to get your other shows in, but we must support our own. We must support our own. Now, look, as we're moving forward, and we'll be closing up soon, but, historically, and I consider myself sort of a business historian. And so historically, our businesses, and some people don't even realize this. Some people think that, entrepreneurs or business people, we're only about money. All we want to do is make some money and right? But that's totally not true. Now, it may be some people like that. But even historically, some of our great business leaders have been the major contributors to some of those days, whenever that time was, social cause. So for example, A.G. Gaston, who was a millionaire, owned insurance companies, etc. He heavily supported the civil rights movement. He gave shelter to Dr. Martin Luther King and others in that time. Madam C.J. Walker, of course, we all know her as the millionaire business owner. She supported the major social causes in her time. In fact, we can say that in her case, she was Black and conscious, because she supported the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey's movement. For those who don't know, she put money in Garvey's movement to ensure the continued forward movement of Black people. Tell people what you're doing, even now, a little bit, maybe even in the past, but right now, what are you doing? Because I know that you are very conscious. You're active in the community. Tell us some of the things that you've been able to do that are benefiting the community.
I wish I could, I'm not like those leaders quite yet, with our limited resources. But one of the things we do is we do give 1% of our revenue to a nonprofit organization. The first organization was Black Millennials for Flint. At the time, especially the Flint water crisis, they were on the ground and they were literally supplying water monthly to Black residents there. And we were able to give them quarterly, 1% of our quarterly revenue went directly to that. And then we started to support an organization in the DC area called Best Kids. And Best Kids is a peer-to-peer mentoring program for foster youth in DC, most of which are of African descent. And so it's an amazing program where these literally the lifeline for all these kids. And now we're working with an organization called Black Film Space, and their whole goal is to really amplify up and coming Black filmmakers, another nonprofit. And so my hope is that, over time as we grow, we can we can do that more and be able to amplify more nonprofit organizations. Because we're talking about being a business owner and the challenges of us raising money and growing our business, it's even harder for Black-led nonprofits as well, for them to be able to, do the movements that they do. And on another level, just having a platform that will allow alternative conversations to happen freely is also really important to us. We have a lot of documentaries on our platform that maybe others may think is too radical to have on. Like we have a new doc called Negroes with Guns, and it's about a civil rights leader who, with Second Amendment, it's going to work for us. You're not going to be killing us in the street. And these untold stories that people sometimes never know about, because history only wants to talk about only certain types of Black leaders. And so I think it's also important to us as a platform to be able to give back to the community, but also be a space that's educational. I think, giving back is also giving people the information too.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we have to applaud anything because, as you stated earlier, we most of us as Black businesses, we're just trying to hold on. And for those who don't know, the average Black business only earns roughly between $45,000 and $60,000 a year, which is equivalent to what some might call a good job, and has 0 employees. So we're just trying to hold on. So when you find any of us giving back anything, please applaud that. Please appreciate that, because we're doing it for the love of the community. Now, I want to touch on a couple of points as we're rounding out, because I think access to media is of the hugest importance today. And we could do a whole show about media and Black media and talk about some of the things that have happened, why they're only limited access to media. But what I want to hear is, and my question to you is, what role do you see KweliTV playing as a media outlet? Where do you see yourself moving in the future in that regard? Because I think you're serving platforms like yours are serving great importance. Some are saying we need to make sure we're telling our own narrative, our own story. It's so bad that we know, in fact, that history books are now being changed in certain places in the United States, where they're saying there was no slavery. There was just indentured servitude. And so the story, our narrative, continually is changing to really affect the minds, in particular of young people, to cause more confusion, younger people and babies growing up. So how can what you're doing, why is it so important for us to have control of media? And what is KweliTV doing in your hopes in the future to become stronger and a greater outlet to tell our narrative?
So how much do we have about the control of media? That's something that's really important to me. It's interesting, as a business owners, people, whenever you try to ask for money or when unsuccessful or not, one of the things they ask you, what's your exit, right? What's your exit strategy? Because they want their money back and they always feel you need to exit. For a Black-owned business, exit means it's going to be bought by a white-owned company. There is no, Black company bigger, that's super big, that could, like the media, right? Or your Freedom Press is probably the largest Black-owned, product company. You're probably doing it right now. You're probably the largest. So there really is no one to purchase you if you were to get bought by a bigger company and you want to be Black, right? So it's very limited. And so whenever I have those conversations with potential investors, they say, well, don't you want to be bought by Netflix? Don't you want to be bought by Viacom? No, we don't. We don't want to be bought by those companies, because once you get sold to another company, the main focus is no longer your product and your mission. Your mission is waft into their mission, and you just become a notch on their belt or become a line item on their whole portfolio. And so, and then you have other people who are higher up than you that can say, no, I think we need My Dear Goes to Space on here, because looking at these numbers, we see that that's going to be really popular. And then you have to adhere to what they say. being Black owned and having control of your story means that there are no outside forces. There are no people who don't look like you telling you what they think is going to be more marketable or is going to sell more. We know our community and we believe what we're doing is best for our community, and we don't have to worry about that. I also just think that, there are so very few Black owned media companies in general. I was thinking about it. Someone said, well, who's Black owned? And I was like, because people think that, like, there are other streaming services around and people think they're Black owned, like, and they're not. Like Urban Movie Channel, now it's called Old Black. They're not Black owned. They're owned by AMC. Brown Sugar is owned by Scripps. Of course, BT Plus is owned by Viacom. Like, none of these platforms are technically Black owned, right? And they're sort of pretending like they are for the sake of, getting subscribers and getting people acclimated to them. But if you look at the content that they have, no shade, but it's really more reality television. It's really more the soap opera dramas. It's really the same cookie cutter type of content. Men are over sex. Women are seen in certain light. They're fighting each other. Like the same type of content we see in mainstream media, because it's not Black owned. We don't control the narrative fully. There may be a manager in charge, but they have a white person who they have to, answer to. We answer to no one. That is the beauty of being a Black owned company. I'm not answering to anyone else. I answer to myself and the higher power. Those are one or two people I answer to. And so, and I work off an intention. I work off a conviction inside of me to make sure that the narrative that we put forth into our community is authentic. And so that's why I think Black ownership is so important. As far as, where we want to go in the future, I really see it. We'll see how things go. I'm a big dreamer. I have this big vision for where I think things could go. Do I have the money and the resource to make it happen? That's the challenge that I face every single day. I really see KweliTV being the global destination for people of African descent to see themselves, in their language. One of the things I'm really hoping to do is to create our platform multilingual, so we're able to have, content in Portuguese and content in French and content in Spanish. Of course, they're colonized languages for people of African descent, but those are the languages people
call it what they are.
Yeah, they're colonized languages, but these are languages that people of African descent all can speak. And then I do want to focus on the Zulus and the Swahili second. But I want to focus on those languages first, because we want to make sure that we're able to hit everyone globally who is of African descent. And also just really being more in tune and making sure we're creating a space for more people globally who are Black. I want to do like more anime, and I want to get into gaming. I would love to get into audio and audio documentaries and all these other things that we can do around storytelling. So I have lots of ideals, and we'll see, what happens. It's rough out here in these entrepreneur streets. So we'll see how things turn out. But ultimate goal is to be the global destination for anyone who looks like us.
That's right. That's right. Family, you are hearing today what real Black power is. This is the power to tell your own story, the power to say what we need to say to each other and the world. That's what we're talking about here. But guess what? None of this happens unless we support that which we say we want. When we look at the continuous disrespect of African people throughout the world, throughout the planet, what we have to understand is nobody respects people who don't show respect for themselves. Notice I said show, action word, show. So to talk it is one thing. To protest, not against it, got to do it. But to show it by supporting the things that are good for us, that support us, that we should be supporting, is ultimately how we gain power, how we gain success, how we get the respect we deserve. You are witnessing it today with KweliTV, our sister Deshauna Spencer here on FPC TV. So as we close out, and you already talked a little bit about where you see the future. Anything, first of all, tell us again how how the listeners can subscribe. Tell them again how they can subscribe.
Sure, they can go to our website. It's www.kweli.tv. They can subscribe there. You see the little orange button. You just click that, and then you can choose between your monthly or annual subscription. If you want to test the waters, we have a 7-day free trial. You can also rent content on the platform too. So even if you decide not to subscribe, you can rent any of our films for a one-time fee. So there are different ways in which you can engage with KweliTV.
You give a free trial?
Yeah, 7 days.
I gotta say it like that because see, family, there's no excuses. You gotta love it. Listen, There's no excuse to at least not try it out. What excuse do we have? You get 7 days for free. It's only $5.99 a month anyway. Some of us got things coming out of our credit card bill. I've had them. They coming out. You don't even pay attention to it. You're not using it. But this is something powerful. You want to sit your children, and because you got children's programming, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
You can sit your children in front of it and know they're getting wholesome, educational content. Mm-hmm. Anything we should be on the lookout for in the next 30 days?
Yeah, so, we're hoping to do some audio things. I would say 30 days, more like next quarter. We have some things we're looking to add around audio. We're going to be hopefully being able to transition all of our documentaries to audio, and we're testing the waters with that. For people to see if they'll be interested in listening to content versus watching content. And we also are working on a crowdfunding platform exclusively for our filmmakers. So our filmmakers will be able to raise money on a different platform that's connected to ours. And so I'm really excited about that. So we'll see how that goes.
Excellent. How can filmmakers get in touch with you?
They can go to our website, and if you go to mission and then you see a drop down and click submit, and then you will see all the details on how to submit your film for review. We just need the film, the festivals it's been in, any type of screener, a synopsis, and then from there we'll make a decision whether or not we want to move forward. And if we do want to move forward, we will email you. Because we get so many submissions, we can't email everyone back, but we email you back if we're interested, for sure.
Excellent. Sister Deshauna, I thank you so much for being with us on FPC TV. Family, we hope you've been informed and empowered. This is what FPC TV will be bringing you. And please subscribe to KweliTV. Once again, what's the website? How can they get in touch?
Kweli.tv.
Absolutely. And please continue to purchase from Freedom Paper Company, www.freedompapercompany.com. We're bringing in more and more Black manufactured products. This is a marketplace we're creating where the dollar circulates and goes back into the community. We thank you so much, good sister. May the Most High and the ancestors continue to bless you and your family, your business. This is our time. This is the awakening of African people throughout the planet. And you're seeing it here. KweliTV, FPC TV, Freedom Paper Company, more and more to come. Thank you so much, good sister. Peace and blessings, peace and power to you.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.